Hayom Yom, Chof Hei Kislev, the first day of Chanukah. So in today's Hayom Yom entry, the Rebbe tells us 6 laws or 6 customs how to light the menorah properly. So he begins, Adoni Avi Meir V'Rabi Hayom Madlik Neres Chanukah Be Mincha L'Mayrav. The Rebbe Rashab used to light the menorah between Mincha and Mayrav, meaning after Mincha but before Mayrav. And basically what he's trying to say is that in the Shulchan Aruch it says that you are meant to light the menorah, you're meant to light the Chanukah menorah at the end of Shkia. And there's an argument on what that means. One opinion holds that means that right after the sun sets, right when Shkia essentially begins, right after the sun sets, that's when you light the Chanukah menorah. Now at that point, you're not able to daven Ma'ariv yet, and therefore if you were lighting the menorah at that point, you would be lighting it before Ma'ariv, after Mincha. There's another opinion though which says that no, the end of Shkia means the end of Shkia, which means you're not allowed to light the menorah right when the sun sets, but you have to wait about another 20 minutes until the stars appear in the sky. And at that point, you're able to daven Ma'ariv already, so you would daven Ma'ariv first and then do the Chanukah menorah. And the Rebbe is telling us that it is our custom, and the Rebbe Rashab followed the first opinion that you light the Chanukah menorah right after Shkia, right after the sun sets, before Ma'ariv, and therefore you end up lighting it after Mincha before Ma'ariv. Second thing he says is V'lo hayom medayek b'Pesach sheyom medarim l'tzafein or memizrach l'Ma'ariv. Now we light by the door, and he says he was not particular if the menorah was laid out from west to east, from east to west, or from north to south. And the reason why that's interesting is because generally the Chanukah menorah is meant to be reflecting and mirroring the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash. And therefore, based on what you held, if you held that the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash was laid out east to west or north to south, you might think that we have to specifically mirror that in our own menorahs at home. But he says, no, the Rebbe Rashab was not particular, and basically however the door was set up, that's what he would do, whether it was east to south, east to west, north to south, didn't matter. The third thing he says is Haneres Halalo Acher Halakas Kol Haneres. So he would say, we say and we sing Haneres Halalo after you're done lighting all the lights. First you light all the candles, and then you sing Haneres Halalo. Because some opinions hold that right after you start lighting the first light, right after you light the first light on fire, then you start saying Haneres Halalo, and you're lighting the rest of the ones. But he says, no, our custom is that first you light all the candles and then you do Haneres Halalo. The next thing he says, V'hayayesha b'samach haneres chatzi shah, levad me'erev Shabbos kedish lo hayu misakev chatzi shah. And he says the Rebbe Rashab used to sit by the candles for a half hour. He wouldn't just get up and run away. He would sit by them for a half hour, except on Erev Shabbos, he wouldn't sit for a half hour. It sounds like he would sit for a little time. He just wouldn't be able to sit for a half hour. Now, what's interesting about this is that it's not brought in the Shulchan Aruch that you should sit for a half hour, but it is brought in some earlier Svarim, and most of them write you should sit for a half hour and look at the candles. But from the source this is taken from, it's clear that the Rebbe Rashab wasn't particular to do that because he would sometimes sit there and write different things, and therefore he had this custom, and we have the custom of sitting by the candles for a half hour, but not necessarily to look at the candles and stare at the fire. The next thing he tells us is Medayek Sheyid L'cho Haneres 5 minut L'chol Habachas. So he would put in enough oil and make sure that the candles would burn at least for 50 minutes. Now it could burn for however long, but the minimum has to be 50 minutes. And the reason why that is because really the shear that is brought in Shulchan Aruch is that it needs to burn for a half hour to consider like it was burnt, that it was lit. But since, like we mentioned earlier, there's a machlekes about when is the proper time to light the candles, and we hold the opinion which says you're meant to light it right after the sun sets. And the other opinion says you're not allowed to light it till another 20 minutes later. Therefore, to make sure that we are being gated from both opinions, we end up making sure it lights for 50 minutes. And that way, the 20 minutes gap is covered. And then it's another half hour into the other opinions. That way, according to all opinions, we are Yetzah, and we are definitely doing the mitzvah correctly. And the last thing the Rebbe says is Mincha Ner Chanukah Ner Shabbos. So in the year that the Hayom Yom was published, Chof Hei Kislev was a Friday. And the Rebbe says first we do Mincha, then we light the Chanukah candles, and then we light the Shabbos candles. Which you have to light the Chanukah candles before the Shabbos candles, because once you light Shabbos candles, it's already Shabbos, and you cannot light the Chanukah candles anymore. And the second interesting thing is that some Jews have a custom that on Friday, specifically on Chanukah Friday, first they do the Chanukah candles, and then they light the menorah. But it is our custom to first do Mincha, then do the menorah. And the Rebbe explained the reason why. So he said, first of all, we are mirroring what happened and what took place in the Beis HaMikdash. In the Beis HaMikdash, first they would bring the carbon tamid of the afternoon, and only then would they light the menorah. And Mincha is in place of the carbon tamid of the afternoon, and our Chanukah menorah is in place of the menorah, so we mirror that. And he says, additionally, it doesn't make sense to first do the menorah and then do mincha, because the menorah is being lit for the night, for tomorrow, for the next day. And mincha is still part of the previous day. So would it make sense to first do menorah basically and take in the next day, and then do mincha, which is being prayed for the previous day? Therefore, we first do mincha, then we do the menorah. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.